and Silver.
No doubt about it. Let's bring him in, our weekly chat with Lions play-by-play voice on 97.1 The Ticket, and, of course, Fox 2 sports director Dan Miller, who is having a lot of fun calling these games. Dan, I got to tell you, it is almost required viewing for me to watch these YouTube clips that you guys have out there that the Lions put out. It just looks like you're having a ball in that booth calling winning football for the first time in a long time, my friend.
I mean, winning is everything, guys. You know that. You guys have been around this thing long enough. It's fun. You're having a great time. You're sharing it with your buddies up in the booth. Lomas loving it. TJ's loving it. You know, Al, Mike, Joe, they're loving it. We're just having fun up there. I mean, this team's playing well, and they're making plays, and that's always a fun thing to watch. So it's a great ride. We'll see where it goes. Obviously, they still have a lot of work to do, but the main thing is, man, it's just great to see all these fans buying in and seeing these fans happy and these fans understanding that this team is now showing us that they're building something here on a foundation that it's not just a fluke. It's whatever happens this year. I think people see the direction of this franchise, and it looks like it's moving in the right direction. The vision that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have is a good one.
Dan Miller, I always enjoy my Tuesdays with you. I just want to say something first. I tweeted out something yesterday. I saw your reaction on the last the touchdown, the game-winning touchdown by the Detroit Lions, and I saw your reaction. I saw the call, and I tweeted at you. I said, man, I'm glad I lived in the era where Dan Miller was the voice of the Detroit Lions, and I mean that with all due sincerity. It was watching. I'm not even a Lions fan, and watching it, I was like, yes, wait. That's my Jets that they're playing against. Wait. So I appreciate you, man. The energy was electric. I was there. I had the chance to be there, and it was electric. I want to ask you one question, just one question only. What were your thought processes? Take me inside when the Lions got stopped on the goal line stand and the Jets got the ball. Take me there, Dan Miller.
You mean in the first quarter?
Yes, in the first quarter.
Yeah, and number one, thank you for that, the kind words. I appreciate that, Braylon. And look, I'm blessed to do what I do, and I'm thrilled to be doing it. And, you know, people have been incredibly kind, and, you know, I'm just beyond blessed. That's all I can say about that. But yeah. Look, I thought they moved the ball against the Jets early in that game. They got down there. It's 4th and less than 1 inside the 1. I think the call there is to go for it. I think coming out of that, I felt like, okay, they're moving the ball, so let's just see when they get it back what happens. Now, they did move the ball real well the rest of the game, but I think if I had any thought right after that, it was, man, I wish one of those downs they might have thrown the ball, because it is one of their strengths to be able to go hard play action and then see if you can get somebody open. But they just ran it 4 times, and that's a really good Jets defense. You know, even without Quinnen Williams, you got some studs up there. So, look, a little frustrated, and I think it always makes you think, okay, did you miss an opportunity there? Is that going to come back to haunt you? But, you know, thankfully in this game it didn't, and it just turned out to be, after that, a tough day to move the ball against that Jets defense.
Dan, we talk about SOL so many times. Now everybody's talking about BNL, brand new Lions, because that's a game, and Dan Campbell admitted it after the game, so that's a game we probably don't win earlier in the season or even last year, but they're winning those games now. Does it all boil down to just confidence?
I think there's some of that. I think, look, you learn how to win, and I think you get into situations where you've had positive games before where you look at it and you say, okay, we've been here, we can make plays, versus a team that constantly loses that game and you're waiting for something bad to happen. So, look, we always talk about it. You have to learn how to win. I think you have to learn how to react in those situations and be confident in those situations and do your job in those situations and not overreact and worry that your buddy next to you, your teammate next to you, is not going to do his job. It's about trust, confidence, all those things that good teams have that make plays late in games. And I think this team is young, but they're starting to acquire that, and they're starting to figure those things out. So it's I think one of the things that we've seen change with them is the way that they play late in games, but also it's playing a clean game. It's not turning the ball over. 7 or 8 games now in a row they haven't lost the turnover battle. Penalties have kind of cropped up the last 2 games, and they got to get that cleaned up. Minnesota and this one too. But, you know, to your point, Ryan, look, I just think it is when you have been somewhere before and done it successfully, doing really anything in life, when you get there again, you believe you can do it. And if you do it multiple times, your belief is even stronger. So I believe there's something happening here where these guys just feel comfortable in those situations, or at least comfortable being uncomfortable, that they can get it done.
And Dan Campbell was talking, we played a soundbite earlier in the show, too, about Dan Campbell talking about the young guys. Look, they don't know any better. They're just like, okay, where are we going? Who are we playing? Let's go do it. I mean, these young guys, they don't really care about 65-plus years of baggage. They don't know any better. That's a good thing, right?
That's a great point. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes gets lost in all this is Kirby Joseph doesn't know anything about 2008. He doesn't know anything about Matt Millen. He doesn't know anything about Marty Morningway. He doesn't know anything about anything that happened, other than probably knowing Barry Sanders and all those things. But while you put that uniform on, you have to wear what has happened in the franchise in the past. It doesn't mean that it impacts you or affects you, because you're not aware of most of that. These young guys weren't alive when a lot of the things that we're talking about happened. So, look, I've said it to you before probably. One of my favorite lines was from Sheila Hamp, which took over the team, and she said, "We can't hide from our past." And I love that, because you know what? It is recognition of where they've been, and you're not trying to just paint some rosy picture that things have gone well, because they haven't. But you need to change that conversation, and to change that conversation by winning, change that conversation by building the franchise correctly. But I think sometimes it's too easy for people to just push the easy button and say SOL. And I get it. I mean, this franchise has been through a lot and not done it well for a long time. But, man, every year it's different. And the players in 2008 that were 0-16 have nothing to do with the players that are winning now in 2022. It's everybody. Look, every general manager that's come through here, every head coach that's come through here has been able to write their own script. They haven't written it well, and they haven't done the job to the point that we'd all appreciate. Yeah. But, Steve Mariucci didn't have anything to do with Jim Schwartz, and Jim Schwartz didn't have anything to do with Jim Caldwell.
Hey, Dan Miller, you're 100% correct. I said I had one question. I lied. I got two. My apologies. It's just so fun talking to you. You're absolutely right. They don't know about it, but you know who does know about it is Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell knows about 08. Yeah. Talk about the job, giving him credit for knowing about 08, but not bringing that 08 stink to this new team. Kind of him knowing, but allowing his team to be their own new team.
Yeah, and I do think, Braylon, that's a great point. I do think it is important that leadership understands where the franchise has been. I don't necessarily think it's important that the players do. Maybe if it gives them motivation and they want to be the ones that change it. But he was here in 2008. Now, he got hurt and wasn't around for most of it, but he understands what this franchise is. He knows what this fan base is. He knows what has gone on here before. So, look, I do think there is some value in that, to have somebody who gets what these fans have been through. It's not going to come in here and sell them a load of BS and try to convince them that, he can magically snap his fingers and make things different than some other coach has before. It's about putting in the work, and it's about making the right decisions. But it doesn't hurt to also understand the fan base's psyche and their emotional damage that has been done by this franchise over the years, and to respect that, because you can't just push it aside. If you're a player, go play. But if you're a coach, understand what this fan base has been through. If you're a GM, understand what this fan base has been through. Doesn't mean it impacts your decisions, but it does allow you to understand maybe how sometimes they question things, maybe sometimes how they react to things. And I think Dan Campbell, having been here, I do agree. I think there's value to that.
Hey, Dan, I got a couple for you, one at a time here. Let's just say the Lions and the Packers win out, all right? And they meet in Week 18. Lions are 8-7, and the other guys are 8-8. 9-7, 9-7 versus 8-8. What's your think? What do you think? How do you coach that team up against a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who has a history against you? I know this particular team beat Green Bay and Detroit 15-9, but let's just say they meet in Green Bay with a shot to go to the playoffs.
Let me approach that two different ways. One, I think you just do what you've been doing. I don't think you change the way you coach because it's Aaron Rodgers. I think your defense continues to do the things that have allowed them to be more successful in the second half of the season, the first half of the season. Now you game plan for Aaron Rodgers, but You can't go out there worried about the fact that this is a Hall of Fame quarterback back there that is, beating this franchise over their head for 15 years. You have to go out there and do your job. And if you're that concerned about who he is, then I think that's going to detract from you doing your job. So, I think the coaches will respect his talents, get his guys ready to attack what he does well. And I think if you get overwhelmed by the fact that it's Aaron Rodgers, I think that can be problematic for a defense. But let me go bigger picture than that, Maz. And I kind of thought about this last night when I watched Rodgers after the game kind of take that shot at the Lions and, Rodgers being Rodgers. And you know what? He's great at it. And he's a great player. And he's a great, guy when it comes to playing mind games. And I thought to myself, you know what? If it comes down to that, good. Because to get where you want to be and to be the team that you ultimately want to be, you have to beat the teams that are in your way. And what would be more symbolic of the Lions putting all of this behind them than to beat Aaron Rodgers, a guy who's beaten them several times for a division title in the final game of the season? What would be more symbolic than saying, you know what, this is the mountain we have to climb. This is ultimately the team that has ruled this division that we have to beat. And if it's him and it's the Packers, bring it. You know what?
Yep.
I'm not saying they'll win, but understand, if you want to be the team that we all want them to be in this league, you can't duck anybody. You can't have anybody not show up on a Sunday. So bring it. And let's go out there and see if they're good enough. And if they're not, you know what? It tells you what you have to do in the offseason. So the more I thought about it, the more I thought, and this is not taunting Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. I respect him more than any player the Lions have played. He has tormented my life for a long time. And I think he's a great player.
With you.
And I have nothing but respect for him. But you know what? He's where we want to be. And if he's the last guy that's in the way of where we want to be, then you know what? Line up, see if you're good enough to beat him, and then you know where you stand.
And if you remember when they did beat him, beat him at Ford Field, he said, "You can't lose to that team." I mean that sticks with me.
Aaron Rodgers, man.
Yeah, I love it. I think
smack talker. I mean, that's what he does, but he backs it up. So I got no problem with him. I like I said, I respect the heck out of him. The two guys probably that I have been tormented by the most on opposing teams,
same team,
Aaron Rodgers and Daniil Hunter. I mean, those two guys have just beaten the Lions over the head multiple times. And you know what? We just had a nice day against Daniil Hunter. Let's see if we can have another nice day against Rodgers. But look, I kind of got a chill when he said that because I thought, oh man, he's got that look in his eye. But you know what, guys? You can't duck that stuff. Ultimately, you want to be the best, beat the best. And that's what Aaron Rodgers has been in this division for a long time. So there's a lot of ground to cover between now and then. But let's see what happens if it ultimately comes to that.
Hey, this was, to me, the greatest weekend the NFL has ever put out, to me, of watching football. Unbelievable. But the way it ended on Sunday Night Football, to me, was a disgrace. I know you're a Washington fan, so I'm going to ask you.
Used to be.
No, he still is. You never lose it. Okay? I mean, was that not the biggest disgrace you've ever seen in your entire life, what that referee did on the side?
I think that.
Come on.
Braylon could probably speak to that more because I'm sure Braylon has checked with officials hundreds of times about it, whether or not he was on the line and in proper position. But, that didn't look kosher. And then the pass interference was clear as well. I thought it was just a bad look for the NFL for the two plays on Sunday night. I got a Washington fan over here, Greg Canner, pumped his fist at me.
Yeah.
I thought both those plays were just not representative of what the NFL
They were fishy.
They weren't fishy. They were bad.
Yeah, and fishy.
I haven't heard an official explanation from the NFL on the receiver situation yet, but it didn't look good.
You won't see and you won't hear an expression either. It's because look who the owner.
You get the Tuesday letter, Braylon, saying,
no, you're not getting one of those because look who the owner of the Washington Commanders is. It's Dan Snyder. That's payback, buddy.
Rigged.
Disgusting.
That was terrible.
Tell Canner we got his back on that one. Hey, Dan, thanks, my friend. We appreciate it. And look, this is fun, man.
Yeah,
this is fun. Lions at Panthers on
500 in December.
Hey, man, look, you could wake up Christmas morning. The Seattle Seahawks are 10-point underdog on the road at Kansas City. The Washington Commanders a 7-point underdog on the road at San Francisco. the Lions could control their own destiny with 2 games to play when you wake up on Christmas morning. Thanks, Dan. We'll see you later, okay?
Appreciate you guys.
I appreciate
All
it,
right,
man, as
guys.
always.
You got it.